Alright, so welcome back to DecryptedTech. Today in the lab, as you can see, we have something a little interesting. This is a NETGEAR. It's a WC7600. This is a wireless LAN controller. It's one of their higher end models. It actually includes a couple of 10 gig ports as well as a 1 gig port. And what this is designed to do is it's designed to connect in different wireless access points into a single unit so that they can talk back and you can do centralized management for configurations. This is great for medium-sized businesses or hotels or schools where you want to be able to control these access points so they work as a single unit instead of having each one be an independent object on your network that you have to manually configure each individual one. We also have a N370 in here. This is going to be a wall module. This has a wireless access point in it. It's 2.4 gigahertz, as well as 4 1 gig ports and a pass-through. This is powered by PoE and would actually come back and talk to this unit. And you could also pass through something if you just wanted something directly connected to a switch that you had in there. Maybe you have an ALC, an access control list, or excuse me, ACL, access control list that you have that you want to make sure certain devices talk back to it. This would just allow you that straight pass through. And then this is your connection for PoE and allows all the information that's configured on this to pass directly back. Your pass through is out is right there, and then of course these other 4 ports are 1 gig ports. So we're going to dive into these two. We're going to take a look at the UI that's on the WN370, as well as look at the UI and the configuration for the WC7600. Once we get into that, we'll show you a little bit more about configuration, how these are beneficial in an environment where you need multiple LAN ports in specific rooms, but you don't want to go to the trouble of running cables to every single room. And then we'll show you the benefits that are behind this centralized configuration model. Some other companies that do this are Aruba Networks. You have Cisco that have their wireless controllers for some of their standalone, non-standalone access points, as well as Ruckus and other companies, where NETGEAR positions themselves as sort of just underneath Ruckus. Although the wireless LAN controller itself is not necessarily a value proposition, it is one of their higher end models. The WN370s are a value proposition, and they come in a little bit below what you would find the competing products from, let's say, Ruckus. So once again, we'll dive into that and we'll show you how this all fits together in your network, and then we'll take a look at exactly what the performance is behind this setup here. Alright, so now that we've taken a closer look at the access points, we're actually going to take a deeper look at the wireless controller itself. You have some LEDs here. This LED indicates the number of access points that are connected. You also have power, you have status, you have fan, and then you have stack master. That's if you're using more than one of these in a stack. We'll discuss stacks a little bit later when we take a look at the UI. You also have 2 10 gig ports. These are SFP ports, so you can use different things, twin-X cables, SFP modules for fiber. They don't have 10 gig SFP modules for copper yet, and they probably won't just because they use too much power, but you could use twin-X cables or fiber to uplink to a 10 gig switch. There's several models out there that are SFP only, so you're good to go on that. You can use these together as a link aggregation pair, so you get the full 20 gig, or you can use them in active standby mode, so one's going to be active, the other's going to be standby in case you had to swap something out. You run them to 2 different switches, however you want to do your redundancy. Here you have a standard gigabit Ethernet port, so that's going to be if you don't have 10 gig or if you don't want to use 10 gig right now, you can use this to connect everything up to it. This is also where you would connect initially to do your configuration. And of course you have a console port, which is kind of standard these days. And you have several openings to allow airflow inside. Alright, this is kind of a long box. It's a little bit longer than your standard switch, so it's got quite a bit of power options and everything in the back here. We may strip the cover off to show you what's under the hood. Along the back, you have several plates for modules. This is actually for an additional power supply. So you can have dual power supplies. All the fan modules are actually removable and replaceable. And of course your power supply is easily removable and replaceable. You just got to kind of pop the thumb screws here. And once those are out, you just pull your power supply out, and it's very modular, plugs in. Again, you could put another one over here, so you could have dual redundant power supplies, kind of keep things nice and easy. Fan modules are easy to pull out. They're easy to replace, making this much more of definitely an enterprise class product. I just got to make sure all of the screws are out, and you pop it out, and of course it's just modular 2 fans. These fans are loud. They spin at high RPM, so they're meant for high exhaust. And so when you put this together, you're going to want to put this in a nice closet or an MDF where you have you're not going to worry about making anybody deaf. So because these things do get pretty loud, and the harmonics between the 4 fans here can get considerably annoying. All right, so that's everything on the outside. So give us a second. We're going to go ahead and strip the lid off, and we'll show you everything that's on the inside. Okay, so now we've got the cover off. You can take a look at the internals here. As we mentioned, you do have another spot for a redundant power supply. You can see it slides in and out. Here's your power board for your fans, and this is also your cable that controls the monitoring of the fans. Everything's pretty much glued in. You have your some A-Pacer memory here, and you also have additional memory, or you have memory here, and you also have an additional slot to increase the memory of this device if you wanted to through a NETGEAR. You could probably do it yourself, although, depending upon the specs, you might not want to. The memory that's in here, go ahead and pop this out for you, is just your standard ECC memory. So it's, pretty basic A-Pacer type stuff, PC3, so DDR3. So it does have to be ECC memory. So you want to be careful with whatever you put in there. Make sure it matches the voltage and specifications that are on the existing memory in there. You have your different processors. This is going to be your ASIC for your 10 gig ports, ASIC for your 1 gig, and then of course your central processing unit. It's a clean layout, very simple, not much to it, but at least it's put together pretty well. The heat sinks are beefy, so you're going to keep the things pretty cool, unless you put it where you're not going to get a whole lot of airflow in through those vents that we showed you on the front. All in all, it's a good design, good layout. If you want to clear it for good, you can go ahead and pop the battery. That do have a CMOS battery right here. And overall, just a nice design and layout for the WC7600 that we have here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get this all put back together, get it plugged in and configured, and we'll show you exactly what the UI looks like and what the access points can do, and then we'll get into testing. Okay, so as we continue our coverage of the NETGEAR WC7600 and the 2 N370s that we have, we're going to take a look at the UI that controls everything inside the wireless LAN controller. As you can see, this is the basic layout. This is after you log in. You're going to be on the monitor tab, and it's going to give you some basic information. It's going to give you network statistics. How many access points do you have that are up? How many are down? How many have problems, critical or major? And then also clients that you may have that are up or down. Right now, we don't have any clients connected, so some of this other information, such as most active APs, most active clients, and most active SSIDs are going to be down. You'll also be able to see how many clients you have connected to your open networks, your WEP clients. Hopefully you aren't using WEP anywhere, WPA and WPA2. If you have anything that's corporate or secure, we're hoping that you're using WPA2, and perhaps on your guest network you may be using open. And we'll show you some of the other features that are inside the controller that will make the use of an open portal a little bit better. Again, when you have that guest network, you may want to do that. All right, the next tab is actually going to be the usage summary, and it's going to give you a display. It'll show you what's happened over the course of, however long this has been up. So you can see here we have different access points that are up, what they're doing, the usage, 2.4 gigahertz. The N370 is only 2.4 gigahertz. There's no 5. However, this controller is capable of handling both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz access points. It's also capable of load balancing between the two, which is kind of a cool feature. So if you get in there and 2.4 is a little congested and your card can actually support 5 gigahertz, it's actually just going to bump you over to it. It's a nice feature, and it helps keep your network a little less cluttered than if you just had 2.4. This is going to show you number of clients by time. We were testing with 1 client wireless and then 1 client wired. So you can see here, total number of clients under 2.4 gigahertz. 5 gigahertz will be green. You can take a look at access points. This is going to show you what you have going on with access points and the different channels. So here in this area, you can see that the 2.4 gigahertz channels we have are on 2 and 7. That helps prevent these things from overlapping. You're not going to get any kind of channel bleed over, even if they are in close proximity. They can still kind of pound on each other when they're near, but by having them in different channel zones, it's going to help you, again, keep a better and a cleaner network. Looking at clients, we don't have any clients here, but if we had clients connected, you would actually be able to see their MAC address, IP, location, what access point they're connected to, the client type, usage, all of this information on there, including what SSID they're connected to and how long they've been connected. You have neighboring clients, you can see all of that. Neighboring access points, you can see all of this. So this is going to show you everything that's over in the area, and it'll show you exactly what's going on with it as well. So we'll move on to profiles. Under profiles, here are the wireless profiles. These are actually like your SSIDs, and they fit into the different locations. So you have some that are standard. As you notice over here, you can see the SSIDs have a standard name, NG, but you can also customize these. You don't do it from this screen, but you can customize them. You can also take a look at DHCP lease, anybody who's using your captive portal. Now the captive portal is what we talked about for like your guest network. So you can go in, have your guests hit it, they click on agree, and everybody's happy, and we'll show you how to set that up in just a minute. So this is the controller, and then we can take a look at the wireless LAN, and it'll ask you to choose an SSID, and it'll show you what's going on and all the access points that are associated with it. We created our own here and used the 2 access points that NETGEAR sent to us to kind of connect this up and show you how it works. So you can go in here and choose any one of your networks, and you'll see what access points are associated with it and all of that. So under clients, again, we don't have any clients here, but you would see all the information that you needed on this. And you can also show blacklisted clients. These are clients that are no longer allowed to connect either by your actions or by their actions. 99% of the time it's going to be your actions. Right, so then we'll go back to the access point tab. We'll start all the way on the left and we'll move to the right. The discovery protocol. This is actually nice. You can do discovery in a couple of different ways. If you, right out of the box, you take this out of the box, you plug it into your network, PoE comes up, it's going to get a DHCP address, but you don't know where it is yet. So what you're going to do is you're going to run this discovery. It's pretty easy. You just click next, and it's going to look for everything, and it'll show you how many you have, how many are discovered, the whole works. It'll display it down here, and you can highlight them and click add. So if you're looking for things that are already installed, maybe you've already connected to these individually and you're putting them in place and they already have an IP address. So that's going to be installed and working in standalone mode. So as soon as you give it an IP address, that's considered standalone mode as far as NETGEAR is concerned. So you can look for it this way. And again, you just type in the IP address range, you know, whatever to whatever, and have it search inside that range. It's going to find them, and again, you just add them in the same way. All right, here, we'll go back to the last one. I am not sure. So what this is going to do is it's going to take you to a link that's going to tell you how to actually to find it and figure out what you've got. Do you actually have? Is it in layer 2? Is it layer 3? Is it going to look for a layer 3 subnet? All of that. So it's good information. Right, after that, you can take a look at the actual managed nodes here, and you can do different things. So if you want to highlight one and you want to click edit, it's going to bring up the information about your wireless access point, including the group that's it's associated with. Now the important thing about groups is you may, let's say you have 20 access points, but 10 of them are on the first floor, and that's where your guests are. So you want your guests to be able to access those access points, but the one on the second floor, those are admin. You can put these in 2 different groups, so they'll get different SSIDs, different information, and they'll talk differently based on that. So the groups become important, so you know exactly where the access points are and what they're doing. Of course, then you have the IP address and all of that information. We put this on a very small VLAN so that it's only the access points, and a couple of other devices can actually talk on it. And here you can say, what's my management VLAN, which in our case, we set up 192, and then you have an untagged VLAN. That's where all of your untagged frames for traffic are going to cross, and 1 is just kind of the default. You can have these different. You can also have these the same. It's not recommended that you have your management VLAN the same as your untagged traffic VLAN. You kind of want to keep that traffic segmented. That way somebody who is on a guest network couldn't immediately jump in and start managing your access point. Antenna. These are only set up for an internal antenna right now, so you're going to see internal. If you were to use a different type of access point that maybe has a high gain external antenna, you would be able to choose which antenna to use. You can also set up floor plans. So down here you can see your plan settings. What building is it? What floor is it? And then you can manually type in a location. You can also highlight one of them and click remove. That's going to kick it out, and it's going to put it in its own little mode, and you can rediscover it later, or you can pull it offline to replace it. All right, so now we move on to configuration. Configuration is pretty much exactly what it says. This is where you go to configure this device. So you give it a name, country, controller location code. You can throw all that in here. You have settings for time. What time zone do you want it in? You have your IP addresses and everything like that. Management VLAN, of course your untagged VLAN. And then what do you want to do with the 10 gig ports? Do you want them to use them as a link aggregation group? Or do you want to have them active standby? So one of them would be active, the other one would just be sitting there in case the first one fails. So you have 2 different options here. Not a whole lot of control, not a whole lot of, just not a whole lot of settings for it. You just have, it's one or the other. You can also set up DHCP servers inside here. These are going to be used to assign DHCP addresses to either wired or wireless clients, depending upon how you set them up. You can set multiple ones in there. You can edit, add them, remove. You can also put in certificates. When you install the certificates here, this will allow you to set up like a captive portal if you had that. You know, it could be a secure captive portal, or you can set up a logon portal, all of that, and it'll let you get in there through here. And this will be the certificates that you actually have. You also have a controller certificate, which will improves the connectivity. A lot of new clients, they're looking for a certificate to identify that this is a good controller and you're not connecting to a rogue access point. This is also plays in here. Alerts and logs. Do you want to track events and what level? You can do info all the way up to critical and tell it how long. You can also push this out to a syslog server, which is a nice feature. So as you get any information, it's going to push that out there. You get much more visibility than you would have if you were to just put it locally. All right, alarms. What alarm do you want to, what do you want to do about these alarms? Do you want to send an email, add to syslog server, all of that, and you can set this up here. Email setup. This is pretty straightforward. What's your server? What's the sender address? A wireless controller, I'm in trouble, whatever. And then authentication. If that's required, you go ahead and put in your username and password. This would be if you're using something like Exchange or even some external sends that you can use. All right, wireless. Here's your schedule. There's two halves of this. There's basic and advanced. So this is when do you want it on? So you could say schedule the radio off, and you set your hour up. So I want the wireless to turn off at 7:10 on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And you could do that. And how long do I want it to turn off? So when do I want it to come back on, basically? And you could set it, okay, I need it to come back on at 11 o'clock. And you set all that up here. So then you have your basics for wireless. A lot of this stuff is not changeable because it's based on the access points that are in there. So, and then of course you also have your settings for B, G, and NG, and also N and A. So you can flip back and forth between these two tabs. Channel allocation, this is where you can set up your channel plans. So automatic channel plan, you can enable it for 2.4 gigahertz. You can say I want to use channels 2, 4, 7, and 11. I don't want to use these other channels, and that'll be my broadcast through. 5 gigahertz, you can do the same thing. You can set up your different channels so you don't have too much overlap. Active voice call, high traffic load. You can set this up so if somebody's on a phone call, it's not going to change the channel running, at that time in order to so it prevents an interrupt. If there's a lot of traffic, you can also say, hey, don't allow this to change during that time. And then of course you can schedule when it changes, at what time, what time of the day should I allow these changes to happen. Your RF management, default power, you can set it all the way from full to minimum. Automatic transmission power control, enable, that'll allow it to change dynamically based on the proximity of other access points. Maximum neighbors to participate in self-healing, and self-healing wait time after AP failure. So what this is let's say you have a cluster of 5 access points. One of those access points goes down, it dies, whatever, the PoE port on your switch kicks the bucket, and suddenly it's not able to connect. So what this is going to do is it's going to allow the other access points to change their transmission power in order to cover that zone, that failure. So it's a really nice feature, and you see it in some of your higher end things. Cisco has it, Ruckus has it, and a lot of other wireless providers actually throw this into their systems. So it's a nice feature, and it's good to see here considering the price point that this is going for in the market. As we discussed, this is meant for smaller hotels, education systems, even medium-sized businesses that want to kind of control wireless, and they want wireless sort of, in a more centralized location instead of having a bunch of standalone access points. That's what this is good for. Periodic coverage hole detection. What this is going to do is going to kind of beacon, and it's going to say, hey, where is everybody? Are you up? Are you running? Are there any areas where I might not be getting good coverage? That'll run that. Alert severity for coverage hole. So I've got a big outage and I got a couple of access points down. It needs to let somebody know. Band steering status. Again, it's just an extra feature. Preferred band. This is going to be, what are we going to use? So 802.11b, BG, and NG, that's going to be our preferred band. And then we take a look at advanced. Here is where you actually set things up inside your groups. So again, we said we have group 1 and group 2. We can set up our schedule there. We can do the same thing for our wireless. And we can come down in here and take a look at group 2. Excuse me. Group 1, because it's our default group, a lot of this is not going to be changeable. As soon as you add in a group, you can turn these things on and off. If you don't want A and N on, or you don't want B, G, and N on, you can actually turn that off. You can adjust data rates, all of this. You know, your guard interval, everything is now adjustable here, and you can see the 2 access points that are attached to it. As soon as you have access points attached, you can start working with that. But this is what we have our access points attached to, and you can see what they're actually doing. So we have one at full and the other at half. That's that, you know, adjustment that's happening. QoS, quality of service. This is a great tool that allows you to change the quality of service or the way it handles traffic for certain high priority traffic. Voice over IP calls, certain types of streaming. Maybe you want your admin traffic to have priority over guest traffic. This is where you can set all of that up. Again, you know, on your different groups. RF management, we already talked about that. What's your default transmission power? And of course your preferred band, and it's the same thing. Under security, you have some good things. Rogue access point detection. This is a great feature. It looks and sees, is there an access point out there broadcasting, something like a Wi-Fi pineapple, trying to capture or trying to use my SSIDs against me. You turn this on and it'll actually find it, and you can say, hey, what do I want to alert on? MAC address, you know, our access control list. You can set this up, allow people to connect by MAC address. So if you have certain admin clients that you want to be able to get on there, but you only want them on there, then you can go ahead and put that in there. And as you can add these in based on people that are actually connected. Authentication server. Do you want a radius server? Do you want something like that? Do you want to use, you know, any kind of radius server here? You have a couple of different ones. You have external radius server, internal authentication server, and external LDAP server. So you can use these, get everything set up, enable authentication, enable accounting, and that's going to give you a little bit more access. You can also set these up. The nice thing about the external radius server, if you wanted to use a service like 11OS where you can charge different tiers for wireless, that's going to push through, and that's going to be that authentication mechanism. Under advanced, as you can see, you have all of these. These are a list of known access points that are in the area, and we could also, you know, kick some of these down and say, hey, this is this is an access point I don't want, so I can apply this into my rogue access point detection. Of course, I'm not going to. And you know, you have the same thing, group name. You can set up your ACLs, merge, replace, and import your MACs. Authentication server, it's going to be the same type of thing. You can set up different ones for different groups. Right, under profile. Here is where you set up your different profiles for SSIDs. As you can see here under basic, you can create another profile. You can give it a new clone an existing profile, or you can actually create a new one just on your own and give it a name. Load balancing will allow you to load balance between access points. So you can see here on this, what's the maximum number of clients before I want to start pushing people off. It's you know, they're sliders. So you have the different type of access points that are connected or can be connected to this. Rate limiting. This is a great one. So if you want to set up rate limiting on a particular SSID, you can. And that's going to limit it based on the megabytes over here. And again, it's you just drag the slider back and forth. AP, the LEDs. Do you want to disable the LEDs so nobody sees them flashing? You can do that. Or you can enable only the power LEDs. All of that, and again, in advance, that gets you into your groups where you can actually take a look at the different groups and set things up. So in group 2, do we want a rate limit on this? You know, say only 30 megs total. So that's going to get you into that area. And again, the same thing with your powers, your LEDs. So your wireless LAN networks, this is going to show you what you have. These are your access points and your wireless LAN group. Here you can change your, you can take a look, which ones do I want to see? I only want to see the ones in group 2. Or do I want to change these? So you can change this back and forth here. So this is your group assignment. And the last page, of course, is our captive portal. What this is again, what type of portal is this? Well, it's a guest portal. So I want the guests to come in and I want them to agree to my terms and conditions. And I can put my terms and conditions down here in this large box. And then I want them to go ahead and, you know, say, I agree. So by clicking I accept, that allows them to get in onto that network. Can also set it up as a captive portal, which a captive portal is going to let them get into the system and going to allow them to use sort of that authentication. So they pop in, they have to log in with a username and password, and that's what allows them to get onto the wireless. It's not just, you know, your SSID and you know, something like WEP or WPA2 or even EAP. All right, so moving on to the next tab, we have monitor. We showed you this. This is where you land. Under maintenance, you have you know, user management. You can create different users. You can create captive portal. You know, captive portal accounts, captive portal users, all of that. You have your upgrades. Of course, you can do a firmware upgrade on the box, but you can also upgrade the actual access points and push those out. You have your licensing. This is going to tell you how many access points you're licensed for. This one's licensed for 2 for testing. Again, your server settings, default update server. It's going to tell you where you need to go. Registration, advanced, inventory. You know, it's going to put you all into the same kind of thing. Backup and restore. Exactly what it says. Back up your configuration, restore a configuration. Reboot and reset. So do I want to do a hard reset? Do I want to do a soft reset? Hard reset, again, is going to kind of like a reset the default access points. You can take a look at these. You can reboot the individual access points just by highlighting them and clicking on a button. All right. Extended storage. We don't have any storage extended on this. You actually have to have something like one of the readinesses from NETGEAR, and then you could actually have that storage there. SNMP, session timeout, it's all going to be here. So you can send this to an SNMP server to grab those SNMP traps, and it's another form of logging. Again, log and alerts. You can take a look, what kind of you know, logs have we have, what kind of things have been going on. It's all good. RF events. So this is kind of neat because it's actually going to show you automatic transmission power computation adjusted power for the following access point, and it turned it from half to full. So, and it shows you when that was done and why that was done. Load balancing, same thing. These are all just your logs, and then of course you could take a look at the individual logs for these and search through things by either access point or by, you know, wherever you need. So you would do the query, and it's going to say, hey, here's an unexpected request. So, and then you can save this if you want and push it out somewhere else. All right, stacking. We don't have any more, we only have the one controller, but you can stack multiple controllers so they work as one unit, and you can either have them as redundant or you can have them just to control more access points and give you more features. So you can stack these into one. Again, nice option. Plans. Plans are pretty cool because what you can do, you come into your plan and it's going to set you up what building, what floor, and you can drop these in. You can actually drop floor plans into this, and when you put that map in there, you can actually show exactly where all of your access points are on that plan. We don't have any here, but you can drop these in. PDFs will work. And so you just browse, and it's going to look for, you know, the information, and of course you load it in, and you can add multiple floors and just get everything set up. You got your planning. How do you want to do this? Where are the access points, signal quality, all of that. That's going to go in there, you know, local building, remote buildings, and then of course deployed. It'll show you your floor plans here and what everything that you have. Diagnostics, pretty straightforward. You want to, maybe you're having an issue with an access point and you want to go ahead and ping it. You want to see if the controller can talk to it. That's what it's going to do. It's going to reach out to it and send a number of pings. You can change the ping count. You can also do a trace route. So do the same thing. You choose an access point and it's going to see exactly where it's going to go. So you can take a look at that and see what's going on. One hop. So, you know, we have a simple network here. We're not really looking to make it massive. But in this case, you can route these through multiple switches by allowing your VLANs, using VLAN routing, setting up helper addresses, all of that. Again, DHCP, you can assign DHCP either from a central DHCP server or directly from the controller. You can have multiple DHCP server services on this controller. In many cases, you're going to find that you'll do that with a server on your own, so you can assign DHCP through the server. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket. So that covers the actual access, the wireless, the WC7600 UI as you get in here to configure this. And we'll take a look at some of the other things. You know, we'll cover performance, and of course we'll talk about some of the benefits, and then we'll show you a little bit more of a design for this. Okay, so that wraps up our coverage of the NETGEAR WC7600 and the N370s. Overall, we think that the WC7600 is a great product. It has a lot of options and a lot of features to build your own wireless network. For not a whole lot of money, you get a good value. You can, if you click on the link below this video, you'll be able to see what we're talking about as far as from different price points. As far as the N370s, these are nice little products. However, they're less sophisticated than we feel that most small businesses or even smaller hotels or even schools would use. One of the things that we didn't like was the inability to configure the ports per VLAN, set up each one on its own independent VLAN, have the wireless be on its own VLAN, all of that. There wasn't that level of detail that you could get in and actually configure these. They're a nice product. They do give you the extra ports, 4 ports, all for the price of one. So they become like a small hub, I guess. Not really. They're a switch, but they're an unmanaged switch. So it's a decent product with a good wireless access to it. The performance was nice, but we just didn't see the extras that we would like to see in a product like this, like you might see with a Ruckus or even the one that Cisco's coming out with and some of the other ones that are out there on the market. Now, we do know that NETGEAR is not competing directly in that market space, and the price point is considerably less than those devices that have that, but still it would be nice to see that perhaps in a future product. All right, so if you like this video, be sure and click on the like button. As always, share it with your friends, and make sure you subscribe to us so you can stay up to date with the latest news and reviews we have for you.